Vegas, the city that never sleeps. Gambling, entertainment, shopping, all readily available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But while the flashing lights of the Vegas Strip may be a beacon for tourists, I imagine that many of the locals head in the opposite direction when looking for a way to pass the time. Maybe somewhere a little quieter, more remote. Outside of the city, far from the blinding lights, the desert it was built on continues to stretch out. This is the Mojave Desert, home to the infamous Death Valley and the backdrop for today's story. Because back in 2004, a young man named Kenny Veach went for a hike out in the desert, searching for a peculiar cave with mysterious properties, and he never returned. Our story begins in late 2014, in the comments section for a YouTube video where a man talks about his experiences of having a father working at Area 51. The comments, predictably, are mostly centred around UFOs and aliens, but there is one comment that is slightly different. The comment, by user Snakebitmgee, reads, "This ain't nothing. I am a long-distance hiker. One time, during one of my hikes out by the Nellis Air Force Base, I found a hidden cave. The entrance to the cave was shaped like a perfect capital M. I always enter every cave I find, but as I began to enter this particular cave, my whole body began to vibrate. The closer I got to the cave entrance, the worse the vibrating became. Suddenly, I became very scared and hightailed it out of there. That was one of the strangest things that's ever happened to me." Other users, intrigued by the story, asked for more details and urged the commenter to find the cave again and record it. And, surprisingly, he obliged.
Well, here I am on my hike up here in the mountains north of Las Vegas.
Snakebitmgee's real name was Kenneth Lee Veach, a 47-year-old man from Las Vegas. Kenneth, or Kenny as he was known, was an avid photographer and hiker. He often went on solo adventures out into the wilderness, sometimes spending the night out under the stars. This video, posted to YouTube on the 18th of October 2014, shows Kenny as he hiked through an isolated valley close to the Nellis Air Force Base. He begins by telling us the general plan for his hike, and also explains that he usually rations his resources very strictly throughout his hikes.
Because I didn't bring a whole lot of water and I only got like one candy bar to get me through, but I like roughing it that way.
After a cut, Kenny speaks to the camera again and gives a little bit more information about the cave. He points out that the area is covered in small caves, but that the one he is searching for is at about ground level and is shaped like a perfect capital M. The video continues to cut in and out, with Kenny giving updates about his hike until eventually he signs off, frustrated about not being able to relocate the cave. The video was unremarkable. Kenny hadn't found the M cave, and nothing else of interest happened. If this had been the last we heard of Kenny Veach, he, along with the M cave, would have faded away into obscurity. But that's not how this story played out.
Metro Police are looking for this missing man.
A family is asking for help tonight as they search for a man who went missing.
North Las Vegas police are hoping somebody out there has seen this man.
A little under a month later, on the 10th of November, Kenny was gearing up for another adventure out into the desert. He told his family that he would be back in a couple of days, and, armed with his firearm and his camera, he headed out. The 2 days came and went, but Kenny never returned. Concerned, his girlfriend reported him missing, and before long, a search was underway. Something that is hard to convey through pictures and videos is the scale of the area we are talking about. This is an incredibly vast and isolated area, which makes thoroughly searching it almost impossible. It took 12 days for search and rescue to find anything of interest. Kenny's phone was found at the entrance to a mine shaft. The very same mine shaft that had featured in his MK video. The shaft was searched and no trace of Kenny was found. And that was the end of the trail. There was no further evidence. Understandably, there are several theories surrounding Kenny's disappearance, and I feel like they can generally be condensed into 4 categories. Accident. Kenny, although an avid hiker, was known to take risks. He would not shy away from challenging hikes, even when alone, and was often woefully underprepared. He could be gone for days and didn't see the need for GPS or even maps. In this clip, which was cut from his original MK video, we can see Kenny in the immediate aftermath of his hike. He is out of breath and struggles to swallow both his beer and his water.
That beer feels like it's gonna kill me. That's never happened before. That hurts. That actually hurts me.
It is also worth noting that Kenny's username, Snakebitmgee, has a story behind it. Kenny, as seen in this clip, was fond of handling snakes, and this fondness landed him in trouble when he got too close to a rattlesnake and got bit. So, with this background information, it is entirely possible that Kenny simply fell victim to the dangers of the desert. In another comment, he states, "I had to be rescued only one time by a helicopter. I had blown out my left leg at the top of the mountain, and I only had a cup of water left to get me 20 miles back to my truck. It was also over 100 degrees out. So, I have a very good safety record." This tells us 2 things. Number 1, he had a previous debilitating injury in an area that would be really easy to re-injure. And number 2, he felt that he had a good safety record despite this mishap. Where some would have changed their approach to hiking following such an experience, it seems that Kenny felt there was nothing to change. If he had re-injured his leg, or had another accident, he may have been left no choice but to take shelter in a nearby cave, and wait for another hiker to come by. Unfortunately, as I said earlier, this is an incredibly isolated area, and not an overly popular hike either. Depending on where he was, it could be decades before another hiker stumbles across the same cave. Suicide. Mental health struggles play a role in far too many disappearances, and, unfortunately, this could be another one. A comment was left on Kenny's MK video by his girlfriend, who shared a little insight into Kenny's state of mind at the time that he went missing. I want you to know that I do not think Kenny had an accident. I believe he committed suicide. He battled depression for many years and would not take medication or see a doctor. He quit his job a little more than a year before he disappeared. With cases like this one, it's important to remember that the person we see in the video is just a tiny snippet of who that person really is. And there can be a lot going on behind the scenes that we have no idea about. Her comment continues. They found his car in the area I told them it would be. They did find his cell phone by the mineshaft in the video. The mineshaft was only about a 4-hour hike from his car. It is my feeling he left it behind so that he could not be tracked from the GPS in it. He also did not take his video camera with him on this solo hike. It was left in his home, so he had no intention of filming anything. With this information, it feels all too possible that Kenny got lost in the desert intentionally. He had hiked through the area a couple of times prior, and maybe he had a spot in mind that he felt was far enough off the beaten path that he wouldn't be found. In fact, he had told his girlfriend that if he went that route, he would make sure to do it somewhere he wouldn't be found. His browsing history also showed that he had been researching the topic in the weeks leading up to his disappearance. Another tragic aspect of Kenny's life could add credibility to this theory, as, some years earlier, he had found his father after he had taken his own life. Having a daughter of his own, I can see why Kenny would think that going out into the desert was the better option. Intentional disappearance. This take is a little out there, but hear me out. Kenny, having quit his job a year prior, had apparently got himself into a significant amount of debt. This gives some motive for Kenny perhaps wanting to disappear, and could help to explain a couple of things. His phone, for instance, being placed somewhere that it would definitely be found, to place him in the area and lead everyone to believe that he was in the desert somewhere. The problem with this is that it would almost certainly require Kenny to have help. His truck was found at the start of the trail, which means that he would have needed a ride out of the desert. Surprisingly, there does seem to be some evidence to support this theory, at least according to some members of Kenny's family. This footage was taken from a CCTV camera inside a store in 2018. The store is owned by Kenny's ex-sister-in-law. A man broke in and seems to know exactly where he is going and what he is looking for. The kicker here is that several people identified this man as Kenny Veach, including his own daughter. Now, the footage is grainy, but the people that knew Kenny would be able to recognise his mannerisms and the way he moves, and several of them are convinced that this is the missing man. Personally, I don't see the resemblance, and honestly, I really hope it isn't him. Kenny had a family. He had a daughter and a grandchild, and the thought of him putting them through something so traumatic is just so heartless that it makes him being dead somehow seem like the better option. Military intervention. The last and, in my opinion, least likely theory hinges on the idea that Kenny stumbled across something that he shouldn't have, and that he was silenced. Let's go back to that first comment that Kenny made. The mention of the Air Force Base was most likely the main fuel to this theory. Plus, when it comes to the Nevada desert, people tend to immediately jump to Area 51, and the comment was on a video about Area 51. But in reality, the area where the cave supposedly was is some 60 miles away from Area 51. This doesn't mean that Kenny didn't find a cave, and the vibrating and sudden feeling of panic could have been very real. But, as strange as it sounds, there is a logical explanation for this. And that explanation is something known as infrasound. From Wikipedia, infrasound describes sound waves with a frequency below the lower limit of human audibility. One study has suggested that infrasound may cause feelings of awe or fear in humans. It has also been suggested that, since it is not consciously perceived, it may make people feel vaguely that odd or supernatural events are taking place. These frequencies can be produced by many different things, both natural and man-made. Could Kenny have stumbled too close to a secret military site using machinery that created infrasound? Had the authorities caught wind of the M cave being found and discussed online, and sought to silence Kenny before he uncovered something? Personally, I doubt it. If infrasound did play a role in the strangeness surrounding the cave, it was most likely caused by the wind travelling through the caves just right to create the frequency needed. Nothing more than a strange natural phenomenon. Of course, since we don't have any solid proof of what really happened to Kenny, I can't completely rule anything out, including the involvement of somebody else, military or otherwise. Something that people point to when they are discussing this theory is a comment left in response to Kenny's. No, don't go back there. If you find that cave entrance, don't go in. You won't get out. This comment, which has since been deleted, seems very ominous given what would transpire just a couple of months later. Did this person know something? Is that why they were warning Kenny? Or were they just playing along with the creepy atmosphere that had been set around the cave? Unfortunately, this person never elaborated further, so we'll never know. While I was researching this story, I watched several videos from other channels, including some in which the uploader does the same hike that Kenny did, searching for the M cave. Some do claim to have found the cave, while others claim that the cave has been sealed up. Most, however, find nothing at all. From the beginning, there have been people calling Kenny a liar. They believe that Kenny made the entire thing up, and him not finding the cave in his video was further proof of this. As for why he would lie, it's hard to say. Perhaps he wanted to draw attention to himself or his YouTube channel. Or maybe he really thought he had found the cave, but his mind was playing tricks on him. Looking at the other videos on Kenny's channel, I personally do believe that there were some mental health issues at play.
I'm putting this house up for sale along with me. He's like a beanbag. He's very cool, very, very durable, and his glow lasts for a long time. My name is Kenny Veach, and I invented the new improved toilet paper roll holder.
These videos come across as strange and out of touch, and I'm not sure if they were that way by design or because Kenny was having some sort of episode. This, coupled with the comment from his girlfriend and his turbulent past, leads me to believe that Kenny was struggling with his mental health, and either went out into the desert to clear his head and had an accident, or he went out there with the intention of ending his life. Whatever his fate, his story of the M Cave has kept people enthralled for 9 years. And who knows? Maybe one day someone will stumble across a suspicious-looking cave and solve this mystery. Once and for all. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. If you have a story or event you would like me to cover, please leave your suggestions in the comments below. Thanks again, and keep yourself safe out there.